Welcome! We're about to journey deep and inside a text that argues the Quran contains hidden codes and some pretty secret meanings. This is a forensic analysis of Surah Al A, and the source material we're looking at claims that pretty much everything, from the nature of God to the structure of the entire universe, is actually encoded within its verses. It's a profound, really esoteric interpretation, and our goal today is to meticulously unpack every single layer of its argument. We'll cover theological proofs for a divine guide, the philosophy of divine names, and even a mystical science of letters. So, let's get right into it.
Everything we're exploring today really springs from this single verse in Surah Al A. See how it starts with these mysterious individual letters. Alif, Lam, Mim, Sad. They're letters that are recited, but they don't have a conventional meaning. Then it says, a book revealed to you. Now, the author argues that this simple opening is the key to everything. Those mysterious letters, they're an immediate sign that this text is operating on a whole other level, beyond just simple human language. And the statement that follows is the gateway to understanding the very nature of revelation and why a divine guide is absolutely essential.
So here's how we're going to break down this really intricate argument. We'll start with the core thesis, the textual proof for a divine guide, the Imam. From there, we'll get into the Quran's hidden meanings, the power of divine names, and a fascinating distinction in the nature of praise. Then we'll dive into the most mystical part, the science of letters, before we see how all this profound theory is meant to tie right back into spiritual practice.
Okay, so the author's starting point is fascinating. Instead of using outside philosophy to prove their point, they argue the proof is right there, inside the Quran itself. The claim is that the book's sheer complexity and depth is on its own the primary evidence that we need a divinely appointed, infallible guide, an imam, to truly understand it and unlock what it's really trying to say.
The author's first move is to challenge how we see that simple phrase, a book revealed to you. They argue it's operating on two channels at the same time. You've got the surface meaning, the manifest layer, that's accessible to the general public. But hidden right underneath it is a deep, esoteric meaning, a well of wisdom that's only accessible to a select few, a kind of theological elite who are said to hold the keys to its true interpretation.
And here, the author just dramatically expands the very definition of a book. They introduce two really critical concepts, the Kitab Tadween, which is the written, compiled Quran that you can hold and read, and the Kitab Takween, which is the universe itself, the book of creation. The argument is that both are divine texts. Both are filled with signs and patterns and truths just waiting to be read and interpreted. Both of them are authored by God. And this is where the logic just clicks right into place. I mean, we need scientists, physicists, and philosophers to interpret the laws and meanings of the universe, right? The book of creation. So the author argues, why would the Quran, the written book, be any different? Such a layered, complex, and profound text, they claim, absolutely demands a specially appointed interpreter to reveal its true depths. And in this theological framework, that necessary and infallible interpreter is the Imam. This is a brilliant illustration of why a simple, literal reading is seen as not enough. The author gives this powerful example from Imam Jafar al-Sadiq. He was asked about the simple word kana, which means was, in relation to God. The Imam gives a response that just shatters our normal human understanding of that word. He explains that God's wasness isn't about a past event or coming into being. It's about an eternal, timeless state of existence. This shows that even the most basic words, when you apply them to the divine, need a level of interpretation that goes way beyond a dictionary definition.
So, this idea that even basic words need a special, divinely guided interpreter leads us directly to the Quran's dual nature. The author explains that the text has a zahir, that's its apparent, manifest meaning right on the surface, and a batin, a hidden, esoteric meaning deep within, which the zahir both conceals and points towards. The specific term for this whole process of esoteric interpretation is ta'wil. And it's not just about offering a different opinion or some creative reading. The author defines it as the science of returning a verse to its original, intended, and often hidden meaning. This isn't a skill you can just pick up through academic study alone. It's presented as a specific form of divine knowledge, a direct insight into the text's core purpose.
To make this more concrete, the author provides a few examples. Take the verse, God warns you of himself. Does God have a self in the human sense, with physical or emotional attributes? Or how about God is the light of the heavens and the earth? Is God a physical light like the sun? Or he is with you wherever you are. Does this mean a physical presence that occupies space? In every single case,
a literal reading leads to theological problems. These verses, the author argues, are just crying out for ta'wil, for a deeper, more metaphorical and spiritual interpretation that keeps God's transcendence intact.
So this raises a huge question. Who holds this knowledge? Well, the author's answer is absolute. The science of ta'wil isn't something you can just figure out on your own through intellectual effort. It's presented as a divinely granted wisdom that was inherited exclusively by the Ahl al-Bayt, the designated family of the Prophet, and passed down through the lineage of the Imams. They are presented as the sole designated interpreters, the keepers of the Quran's hidden truths.
This focus on the deeper meaning of words naturally extends from the verses of the Quran to the very names of God. And here, the author makes a really fascinating philosophical argument about the difference between a name and the reality it represents, zooming in on the unique status of the name Allah.
To explain this, the author uses a historical analogy. There was this famous pre-Islamic warrior, Amr ibn Mahdi Karib, and he owned a legendary sword called Samsam. The point is really simple, but it's profound. You can know the name Samsam, you can study its history, you can even write poetry about it, but none of that is the same as actually holding the sharp, steel reality of the sword in your hand. The name is just a pointer, it's not the thing itself. And the author applies this directly to God. Knowing the divine names, like the merciful or the just, is not the same as grasping the infinite reality of God's essence.
But the author argues that one name stands completely apart, Allah. It's considered the Ism al-Azam, or the greatest name. And why is that? Because unlike other names that point to a specific attribute, like Al-Ghafur, the forgiver, or Al-Wadud, the loving, the name Allah is understood to be the name for the divine essence itself. It's the one name that contains and encompasses all other names and attributes. It is the ultimate pointer to the ultimate reality.
All right, now the analysis gets even more subtle. The author takes a phrase many people know, Subhanallah, or Glory be to God, and really unpacks it to reveal two completely different kinds of praise, one that we speak with our lips, and another one that's built into the very structure of the universe itself. So first, what does Subhan actually mean? It's so much more than just glory. It's a declaration of God's absolute transcendence and perfection. To say Subhanallah is to affirm that God is utterly pure and free from any flaw, any limitation, any partner, or any description that would confine him to the characteristics of his creation. It's a declaration of radical perfection.
Okay, now here is the crucial distinction the author makes. There's tasbih lafzi, or verbal praise. That's what we do when we consciously say the word Subhanallah. It's an action, it's a choice. But then there's a deeper, more profound praise, tasbih takwini, or existential praise. This is the praise that all of creation offers simply by existing. The perfect orbit of a planet, the intricate design of a cell, the unwavering laws of physics, each one, in its silent, flawless functioning, is a testament to the perfection of its creator. It is praise that's embedded in the very fabric of being.
The author then points to verses like this one to support that idea of existential praise. When the Quran says God actively guides and sends astray, the author sees this as more than just a statement. It's a description of the universe in action. The very unfolding of destiny, the natural order of things, is an expression of God's will. In that sense, the universe isn't just following a law, its very existence is a form of silent, constant glorification of that divine will.
Okay, prepare yourself, because we're about to enter the most abstract and mystical part of this analysis. This idea of a hidden order in existence leads the author to search for a similar hidden order in the fabric of the divine word itself. This is Ilm al-Huruf, or the esoteric science of letters, where the claim is made that there's a hidden mathematical and symbolic order within the Quran's text.
The central question really goes back to those mysterious letters at the start of so many chapters. You know, in many mystical traditions, there's this belief that numbers and letters aren't just symbols for communication, but that they hold the very keys to creation. The author applies this idea here, asking, could the frequency of letters and words in the Quran actually point to a hidden divine code? Their answer is that this is not a coincidence, but a deliberate and miraculous design.
So here's the first piece of numerical evidence the author presents, and it's really specific. They state that the Arabic letter Qaf appears exactly 57 times in the chapter Ashura, and another 57 times in the chapter named Qaf. Now, add them up. 57 plus 57 is 114. And what's 114? It's the exact number of chapters, or surahs, in the entire Quran. The author argues this is a deliberate sign, even linking the count in each chapter symbolically to different prophetic communities.
And it's really important to understand that these claims aren't just vague feelings. As you can see from this kind of mapping, the foundation of this analysis is a meticulous, almost forensic, letter-by-letter count of the original Arabic text. The goal is to examine the scripture's physical form to uncover what the author believes is a hidden mathematical structure, a blueprint right beneath the surface.
Here's another really striking example they cite. The author claims that the word yom, which means day in its singular form, appears exactly 365 times throughout the entire Quran. This number, of course, directly corresponds to the number of days in a solar year, suggesting a deliberate cosmic resonance within the text itself.
The author then points to another correspondence, this time with the lunar calendar. They note the lunar year is roughly 354 days. From this, they derive the number 340 by accounting for specific holy days, which are subtracted from the total. Now, while the precise list of those days isn't detailed, the author presents this number, 340, as even more evidence of a calendrical system embedded within the Quran's structure.
The analysis even extends to the titles of chapters. Surah Yasin, for example, opens with the letters Ya and Sin, which are often interpreted as a name for the Prophet Muhammad. The author actually counts the occurrences of these two specific letters throughout that chapter, believing that the final number holds a secret meaning directly connected to the person of the Prophet himself.
So, after this incredibly deep and complex journey through theology, philosophy, and numerology, where does this all lead? Well, the author brings it all back home, tying this esoteric knowledge to tangible, practical acts of worship, arguing that knowledge without action is incomplete. The author concludes not with another intellectual puzzle, but with a clear call to action. They recommend deep reflection, or tafekkur, on these layers of meaning. They encourage the practice of i'tikaf, or spiritual retreat in a mosque, to create the mental and spiritual space for this kind of contemplation. And they mention specific acts of devotion, like fasting on the 27th of Rajab, the traditional date of the Prophet's first revelation. The message is pretty clear. All this knowledge has to translate into devotion.
And this is the ultimate takeaway. The entire intellectual exercise that we've just walked through, the need for an imam, the Quran's hidden meanings, the power of God's names, the numerical codes, it isn't meant to be just theory. According to the author, its final purpose is to shatter our complacency, to inspire a profound sense of awe at the depth and perfection of the divine, and to fuel a genuine desire to draw closer to that reality through sincere worship.
We'll conclude this explainer with the same phrase the author uses to close their text. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, and Praise be to God, Lord of the worlds. It's a fitting end, really, a return from the depths of esoteric analysis to the simple, foundational act of praise. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.